Hi, in this video I'm going to go over some of the Viridian watercolors I've tried and do a painting using my favorite Viridian from M.Graham. I'll also demonstrate how Viridian's pigment ingredient known as PG18 performs much differently than a similar color called phthalo green PG7. Viridian is a beautiful light-fast emerald green color that has different degrees of granulation texture, which varies by brand. I noticed that Lukas was by far the least granulating, and Da Vinci was also lacking in texture compared to the others. Holbein and Core had a slightly gritty texture issue, which seemed less preferable compared to the decent options provided by Daniel Smith, Paul Rubens, or Schminke. Rembrandt's version was notably weak. As I was swatching, I even tried using an extra amount of Rembrandt's paint, but it still seemed really pale. Some artists have told me that they don't like Viridian because of how weak it is compared to phthalo green and how hard it can be to re-wet from dry. Honey binder is a great solution to this problem, which makes the Roman Szmal and M.Graham versions a bit easier to work with. Both retain moisture better and have a more pronounced granulation texture. They also seem to achieve a rich, deeper valued mass tone easier than the others. If you already have one of the other brands and it takes a lot of scrubbing to reactivate, you could try adding a single drop of honey or the vegan alternative vegetable glycerin stirred into the paint as it dries. Like most granulating pigments, Viridian is easier to lift than smooth, finer particle colors like phthalo green. Though the ease of lifting definitely varies by paper, and it's a good thing to keep in mind that certain papers promote staining, while others have a more durable surface coating called sizing that changes how the paint sits on the surface or soaks into the paper fibers. Granulating colors often settle into the dips and valleys of your paper surface, being more textural on cold or rough pressed papers, especially when using a lot of water. Because of the way Viridian and similar granulating pigments settle, it will cause color separation effects as it sinks away from lighter, finer particle colors. Granulating colors like Viridian also resist being moved by salt. While table salt is fairly commonly used as a texture trick for watercolor backgrounds, I utilize its effect more when doing swatch cards for my pigment database. This helps me quickly identify particle size or weight, as well as noting color separation tendencies in multi-pigment mixtures. Sometimes heavy pigments only have subtle granulation texture, which is not always easily seen on a small swatch. This salt texture effect makes any differences between similar colors or brands of the same pigment much more obvious. By looking at my swatches, I can know that any color that does not have a salt reaction will make a mixture prone to color separating when paired with those that do have a reaction. Lukas makes my least favorite Viridian because it does not granulate, and as you can see by its salt reaction, it will not give you the color separating effects that other brands of Viridian will. Viridian makes a beautiful range of textural leaf greens, one of my favorite combinations being a mixture with PY150 nickel azo yellow. Viridian also creates beautiful purples when mixed with red or violet colors. I like to pair it with magenta PR122 for a purple that color separates into pink and green in wet washes. M.Graham's Viridian is also a great choice for recreating popular mixtures like Daniel Smith's Moonglow or Shadow Violet. Speaking of, I love the look of Moonglow, and I don't want to communicate that it's necessarily a bad thing to ever buy pre-made convenience mixtures, especially ones you think you'll use often. But in Moonglow's case, I definitely prefer to mix my own, so I can swap out their fugitive PR177 for a more stable red like PR209. I prefer to prioritize helpful single pigment colors when building the most versatile watercolor set, and Viridian is definitely one of those irreplaceable mixing colors for me. Both color separating mixtures and honey-based watercolors like M.Graham or Roman Szmal generally both benefit from being pre-mixed with water in a side dish. I'm more careful not to go directly from pan to paper with my brush using these paints. You'll also get the most consistent results when using purified water, as sometimes the minerals in certain well water or tap water even can cause unexpected textures. While I might normally wet the paper first and brush apply paint directly from the pan, with sticky or honey paints, this sometimes creates harsher backgrounds or blooms caused by the paint areas drying at uneven rates. Thoroughly mixing this paint with water to your desired diluted color on a palette first gets all those pigments better suspended in water, ready to flow and actively color separate once they hit your paper. Both Roman Szmal and M.Graham's Viridian perform well, but M.Graham's comes in a tube, making it a good choice for those wanting to pour their own color separating convenience mixtures. By having a good selection of useful single pigment paints in tubes on hand, I avoid spending extra money on pre-made mixtures that just use the same ingredients I already own. Having Viridian in a tube helps decrease the amount of time I spend recreating frequently used mixtures each time I paint. I can just set up my most used combinations into empty pans. This also gives me the freedom to take as much time as I want to perfect a complex mixture ahead of time instead of feeling hurried mid-painting. The combination of magenta PR122 and Viridian PG18 is quite lovely when splattered or dripped. I really like how the lighter magenta pigment spreads out to the edges, drying with a pink outline around the green. I added some final touches with gold watercolor to help distinguish the similar color bird from the background, which used the same two colors. I'll put links to any of the art supplies I used today in the video description section. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Viridian. Have you tried it before? I'm curious if the brand you tried was weak or difficult to re-wet. Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see more, you can find all of my detailed swatch card images, results from my independent light-fast testing, and other art supply reviews on my website. I'm currently building a huge pigment database where thousands of colors can be compared side by side with paint from other brands. Updates about this project, along with line art drawings and high-res color scans, are also available on Patreon. Thanks for watching.